Okay, let's say that you want to lose about 25 pounds in a fairly rapid amount of time. Let's say you have some sort of whatever, you a photo shoot, or you're going to a, who knows, some sort of family gathering. You want to like look in really good shape. You want to lose 25 pounds, but you want to do it in a healthy way where you look good, you don't look haggard, you don't look messed up, you don't look tired. What's the best way to go about losing 25 pounds and still feel good and retain as much muscle as possible? There's a couple of methods I'm going to talk about in this video. First thing you have to do is, and there's no way around it, you're going to have to count calories, because calories do count. Although it's true that the body does handle calories differently. In other words, the body handles fat calories and carbohydrate calories a little bit differently. In other words, but they all contribute energy. So there's no way of, through the laws of physics and thermodynamics, you're going to have to count calories. A 2014 study published in Obesity Reviews of 37 previous studies found that counting calories led to 7.3 pounds more weight loss compared to those who went on a diet but didn't count calories. So you're going to have to count calories to a certain extent. You don't have to go crazy about it, but you got to keep track of your calorie intake. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you want to drink a lot of water. Years ago, I wrote for the Weider magazines, Muscle and Fitness, and Flex magazine for quite a few years. I was the science editor of Muscle and Fitness. I don't want to go into a biography over here, but the point is there was a guy that was hired while I was writing for Joe. His name was Ben Pesta. And when I first met him, this guy was obese. He's a big fat guy. He's a tall guy, about 6'2", if I remember, but fat, real fat. And I think he felt a little sheepish he was hired as an associate publisher of Muscle and Fitness. I think he felt sheepish having to deal with all these, well-developed and muscular men and women that would come up to the office. So to make a long story short, he went on a diet, and he went to a doctor who specialized in what was then called the water diet, which required drinking a lot of water. I mean, something like, I can't remember exactly, it was some crazy amount of water, something like 15, 20 glasses of water a day. I don't know, but this is what Ben Pesta went on. And I didn't see him. I didn't go up. I didn't work in the Weider office. I worked out of my home, as I always have. And I didn't go up there till a couple of months later. But when I went up there, it was about 6 months later. I ran into Ben Pesta, and I almost fell down. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because he told me I don't remember the exact figure, whether it was 75 or 80 pounds that he had lost since I had first met him just a couple of months before. And this was basically from the water diet. It was just a regular diet, but it involved drinking an enormous amount of water. Now, what is it about water that would help you lose body fat? In a study published in the journal Obesity in 2010, it involved combining a low-calorie diet with increased water intake, and it resulted in 44% more water loss over a 3-month period. 44%. That's kind of keeping in jive with what happened to Ben Pesta. Drinking water increased metabolism, and one study showed drinking water increases metabolism, I should say. And one study showed that drinking a large glass of water raises the metabolic rate comparable to taking a tablet of ephedrine, which was a supplement popular with bodybuilders and athletes. And it was also incorporated a lot of weight loss supplements until it was removed from the market in 2004 for nebulous reasons. And I won't get into that, but the point is ephedrine was known to raise the resting metabolism and drinking a glass of water. And this was underscored by a study of 14 adults, which showed that drinking 16.9 fluid ounces or 500 milliliters of water boosted metabolism by 30% after 30 to 40 minutes. Now, I'm quoting directly from the study now. The increase occurred within 10 minutes and reached a maximum after 30 to 40 minutes. The total thermogenic response, it was a thermogenic response, which means calories when converted into heat, was about 100 kilojoules. About 40% of the thermogenic effect originated from warming the water from 22 to 37 degrees centigrade in men. 22 to 37 degrees centigrade. In men, lipids or fat mainly fueled the increase in metabolic rate. In women, Carbohydrates are mainly used as the energy source. The increase in energy expenditure with water was diminished with systemic beta-adrenal receptor blockade. Those are called beta blockers. What that means is beta blockers block catecholamines like norepinephrine and epinephrine, which means that the drinking the water increased the metabolic rate by stimulating the release of catecholamines like epinephrine and norepinephrine, which in turn initiate a cascade of enzymatic activities in fat cells that cause the release and oxidation of fat. So the water actually has a kind of a fat burning effect, surprisingly. Thus, continuing with the study here, thus drinking 2 liters of water per day would augment energy expenditure by approximately 400 kilojoules. Therefore, the thermogenic effect of water should be considered when estimating energy expenditure, particularly during weight loss programs. And that's quote unquote from the study. Another small study showed that drinking 16.9 fluid ounces, again 500 milliliters of water before a meal, reduced subsequent calorie intake by 13%. Now, how much water should you drink if you want to lose weight fairly fast? You should aim to drink at least 34 to 68 fluid ounces or 1 to 2 liters of water per day. That's what you should aim for. Again, don't force it down, but just drink it regularly. It'll definitely help keep your metabolic rate up. It'll make a big difference. And also, there's a little trick. If you drink a full glass of water before a meal, you'll actually consume less calories during the meal because the water has a slight appetite suppressing effect. Another thing you want to do if you want to lose weight fairly rapidly and safely is consume a higher protein intake. This is singing to the choir, as they say for bodybuilders. I think all of them consume a higher protein diet, but a high protein diet reduces appetite, increases with satiety, meaning the feeling of not being hungry, and it makes it easier to stay on the diet. A 2005 study of 19 adults found that increasing protein intake by just 15% increased feelings of fullness and significantly reduced caloric intake, belly fat, and body weight. Eating more protein reduces ghrelin. What is ghrelin? Ghrelin is a gut hormone, well, produced mainly in the gut. It's produced in other areas too, including the brain. But ghrelin works by increasing the appetite. It's the most appetite-stimulating hormone or protein produced in the body. Ghrelin gradually rises between meals, and that's what causes you to feel hungry and want to eat. And when you eat a meal, ghrelin drops like a rock. And then again, in between meals, it gradually rises. It turns out that when you eat more protein, you tend to reduce ghrelin more than just eating a regular meal. It reduces the ghrelin even more, which means you're less hungry. This next suggestion, I would say, is probably the most important one of all of them that I'm going to give you in this video, and that's to reduce your intake of carbs, especially refined carbohydrates. There's a big controversy about which type of diet is best. Some studies that have compared long-term effects of various diets, including low-fat, high-carb, low-carb, high-fat, regular, low-calorie, they've concluded that in the long run, all diets induce about the same amount of weight loss. However, these are long-term studies that went on for as long as a year. We're talking about more rapid weight loss, and what the studies show is that you get the most rapid fat loss by far from low-carb diets. Nobody argues that point. That there's no question about it. The fastest fat loss is from low-carb diets. There's various kinds of low-carb diets. I've discussed it in previous videos. If you want to lose the most body fat of any of them, as I pointed out in a recent article in my Applied Metabolics newsletter, the ketogenic diet, which involves 20 grams or less carbohydrate intake per day, results in the fastest weight loss. It's true that the first 7-8 days is mostly water, but after that, it's a lot. You lose a lot of body fat. In fact, you lose maximum amounts of body fat. Within 4 or 5 weeks, the ketogenic diet, you could actually easily lose 25 pounds of fat from that alone, even if you did nothing else. You also want to lift weights, because lifting weights increases the resting metabolic rate an average of 7%. The higher the resting metabolic rate, the easier it is to lose body fat. It also helps to preserve muscle mass while dieting, And it prevents the metabolic drops that slow weight loss. When you diet and don't exercise, after some amount of time, maybe 3 weeks or so, you reach what they call a dieting plateau. What happens is that the body detects the decreased intake of calories and interprets it as a starvation situation. And to preserve lean mass, it takes your active thyroid hormone, or T3, and it converts it into a form called reverse T3, which is metabolically inert. So this is what happens when you, and the actual cause of that is a loss of muscle. So if you lift weights, you retain more muscle and also retain your resting metabolic rate. Another method you could use to help speed weight loss, especially in the short term, is increase your fiber intake. You don't have to be a scientist to realize when you eat fiber, you feel more full because fiber is fiber. It fills you up. A 20-month study of 252 women found that each gram of dietary fiber consumed was associated with a loss of half a pound less body weight and a 0.25% less body fat. So in other words, remember, that's only each gram of dietary fiber. So, it doesn't sound like much weight loss, but however, when you figure that the minimal suggested dietary fiber intake for adults is 30 to 35 grams a day. And if you do the math, it's a pretty good amount of weight loss. And there's another little trick is that if you eat a rapidly absorbed carbohydrate or high glycemic carbohydrate that will stimulate a lot of insulin, and when insulin flows, there's a tendency to synthesize body fat. But if you when you eat that, let's say, rapidly absorbed carb, and you take also a soluble fiber, such as oats or let's say guar gum or beans or let's say psyllium seed, any of these things will lock onto the carbohydrate and slow the entry, the digestion, to the extent that you get much less of an insulin release, and that equals less body fat in the long run. So that's a little trick for you. Also, soluble fiber tends to pull fat right out of the body. If you eat soluble fiber, again, I gave you the sources. If you eat it with a meal, let's say, containing a high amount of fat, which is the most concentrated form of calories, the soluble fiber will lock onto the fat and actually pull some of it out of the body, not all of it. Another thing you want to do if you want to lose weight rapidly is get enough sleep. A 2012 study of 245 women showed that both sleeping at least 7 hours per night and getting better sleep quality, meaning not getting up a lot, increased the likelihood of weight loss success by 33%. Another study followed 68,183 women over 16 years and found that those sleeping 5 hours or less gained an average 2.5 pounds more weight than women who slept at least 7 hours per night. A lack of sleep lowers leptin and increases ghrelin. Leptin is another protein released from fat cells. It's called an adipokine. Leptin tends to lower your appetite, where ghrelin, which I mentioned earlier, tends to raise your appetite. Normally they're in balance, but when you don't get enough sleep, leptin goes down, ghrelin goes up, so you wind up eating more and gaining body fat. That's why another reason to get enough sleep. Just a study of men only 19 years of age showed that lacking one night of sufficient sleep, meaning less than 7 hours of sleep, lowered their testosterone by 15%. That's just one night. Lowering testosterone, again, tends to decrease the ratio or the balance between testosterone and estrogen. Estrogen favors fat accretion. So, again, another reason to get enough sleep. Also, not getting enough sleep increases cortisol. Cortisol tends to, in combination with a high calorie intake or too many carbs, tends to lead to greater fat deposition in the trunk area, central area of the body. Also destroys the brain, but that's another story. Another thing you want to do besides weight training, you want to make sure you include an aerobic component. Why? For the simple reason that fat burns in the presence of oxygen. And the type of exercise that involves the greatest oxygen intake is aerobics. So aerobics, therefore, is the best exercise for oxidizing or burning fat. High intensity intervals, where you do short periods of extremely high intensity as measured by a higher heart rate, interspersed with lower intensity, where you kind of go slower back and forth for, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes. That will actually raise your resting metabolic rate and also help to promote fat loss. 6 months of aerobic exercise alone decreased body weight by 9% in 141 obese older adults. That means they did nothing but aerobics, and that was shown in a 2017 review published in the New England Journal of Medicine. The final thing I would say is to eat more slowly. I think I've written about this in my Applied Metabolics newsletter also. Always remember, it takes 20 minutes, an average of 20 minutes for your brain to detect that you're eating food. And if you rush the meal, if you just keep it, wolf it down, you're going to wind up eating a lot more food, whether you know it or not, than if you ate slowly. I mean, I've seen articles where they suggest that, let's say you're eating a meal, you take each forkful of food, you put the fork down, wait a minute, and then put it, eat it again. You're going to keep putting the fork or spoon down. I have never seen anyone do that, and to me, that would look very awkward. Can you imagine somebody in public, they're eating a steak, and they're going like they're putting the fork down, and then it would make you look like you're crazy. But the point being, you don't have to go to that extreme, but you do want to consciously eat slower. Don't wolf the food down. Give your brain enough time to detect the meal, and you'll wind up eating a lot less, and you'll lose a lot more fat a lot faster. So those are about the best ways to lose 25 pounds or so in the briefest amount of time. Maybe 4 or 5 weeks, you'll be down 25 pounds, and it will be almost all fat, as if you follow the guidelines I mentioned in this video. Especially the high protein intake and the weight training is very important to preserve muscle. So if you want more information about nutrition, exercise science, hormonal therapy, anti-aging research you can use today, fat loss techniques that really work, ergogenic aids, did I say exercise science? I'm not sure if I did. Hormonal therapy such as testosterone therapy, and supplement science, many other topics. Nobody covers as many topics as I do in Applied Metabolics. There's a lot of other digital publications that cover nutrition fairly well. They cover, training information fairly well. But when it comes to the widest variety, nobody comes close to Applied Metabolics, my digital publication. And nobody, to my knowledge, can match my years of practical experience and study, which amounts now to 58 years. I don't think there's anybody out there that has that background I do. And all of it's incorporated into my Applied Metabolics newsletter. I tell you what works and what doesn't work. It's www.appliedmetabolics.com. If you subscribe, I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where every day I post new information on nutrition, exercise science, general health, and medicine. Unfortunately, Facebook recently changed their policy. To join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, you have to first join my regular Facebook page. Then I could send you an invitation to join my private. I know it's stupid, but that's Facebook. What are you going to do? It's really dumb. I used to be able to add anybody, but now they made it much more difficult. Very dumb. In fact, I've had to unfriend a whole bunch of people just to make room for new subscribers to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page. So I deleted people that I have no communication with at all. They've never left a single post. I've deleted a couple of them that I didn't like what they said. But I'd rather have the people that are subscribers as friends anyway. So I'm being honest with you. If you welcome, I have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics website. Current subscribers only are welcome to send me short questions about anything they read in Applied Metabolics or any other questions they have, as long as they're short. I don't reply to unsolicited questions. I always get, I don't know why, I always get these emails from people that are not subscribers. They're asking me for diets. They're asking me to look over their steroid programs. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to answer them. Listen, this is an expensive world. I do these videos for free. I've done a lot of what they call pro bono work in legal terms. I do a lot of things for free, but I have to draw the line somewhere, or I'll be sleeping in a tent like some people around here. I'm not going to let that happen. Sorry. But anyway, So that's about it. And again, you're welcome to leave comments. You're welcome to leave comments under these videos, suggestions for future videos. And if I feel that they appeal to a wide range of people, I'll consider doing a video on it. And that's about it. If you want to have the best friend you ever had, go to your local shelter, adopt a dog. The dogs are the greatest. Greatest. I know, I'll tell you, just as a side note, it saddens me that dogs don't live long. I wish they did. I wish dogs lived as long as humans do, because they're the greatest companion. Their dogs truly are man's best friend. And I'm not trying to offend any cat lovers, because cats usually do live longer than dogs. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that in. So take care. Thanks for listening.